Hello, good evening, and welcome back to Magic's Deepest Chasm Pitch Lufenia Plus. This is once again the Twins Heretic fight against the Lamia Queen and her Warrior of Light and Penelo manikins, and we've brought here a team of Vaan, Quistis, and Kimahri, which I recently learned is actually a TCC challenge run. Didn't realise that was even going to be a challenge for this, so, you know, just nice to get a freebie. But I'm going to remember to take a leaf out of Blart's book and suggest that you leave your team comps in the comments down below, because this fight's had some interesting mechanics, what with the mannequins that blow you up if they take a turn, or the turn-warping Lamia, and I'm interested to see what people came up with. But unlike that coward Blartanian who, for his TCC challenge run, brought Vaan, Quistis, and Agrius because he's too scared to let the enemy act, we're made of stronger stuff here. We've brought Kimahri so that if the enemy does act, they're not going to actually do anything. So, if you want to fight Blart, you're very welcome to come across the Atlantic, I'll be waiting for you. But that orb is looking awfully low, so we've brought in Twins Friend, who are a bit of a cheat code for this fight. For two reasons. One, ludicrous burst damage, and ludicrous AoE damage. In fact, that burst is going to do less than their LDs, so that's the weakest skill they'll do. But two, that burst aura massively empowers your characters. The aura gets stronger based on the number of enemies on the field, including a massive bonus to HP damage cap. I realise we may not actually be seeing that, with Vaan as our main damage dealer, and Quistis, who brought the Brave Gains up, not being on the field. Maybe it wasn't such a smart move to switch out Quistis as opposed to Kimahri, but you live and learn. This is not actually a very optimised run. It was a relatively early clear again, so didn't come up with all the best strats. I don't tend to come back and rerun these with the same team to optimise. But we're looking like we want to do a Vaan burst phase pretty soon, so it's time for Cait Sith Call, which I realise now is not going to be that effective without Brave Gain up. Ah well, I'll do some extra. He'll do a little bit extra. Really actually ought to have bursted with Vaan here to get the maximum use of his mist. You know, use 3 of the free white whirls, then a regular white whirl, then an LD, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Twins doing, well, frankly illegal amounts of damage. 1.2 million AoE, that's what, 3.6 million altogether? Yeah, that's not okay. But it's time for Vaan Burst. Big damage. Even without that Brave Gain up, you still can't stop his damage. I think someone pointed out how pretty much every fight's been runnable with Vaan plus Setzer plus some sort of Brave Gain up, and I think that's very, very true. In fact, I've yet to run him with Y'shtola, who, thanks to his minimum bravery, probably a very, very good character to run him with. I'll have to try that out at some point. That's actually pretty significant damage for a Vaan burst finisher, who's a really early BT. I don't think I've seen it hit that much before. But we're in a perilous situation because Penelo is queued to act before we can do anything about it. And that spells disaster for our run, because Kimahri can't blind Penelo and prevent it from running, so that call, that Cait Sith call, was just enough to bring us to summon phase. Thank God. So we can just blow her up with Twins. Yeah, I haven't really gone into Kimahri's utility here. If you're not familiar with him, his EX puts total blindness on the enemy, which means they are guaranteed to miss unless it's a guaranteed hit. And that's fantastic for dealing with the Lamia and Warrior of Light, because if they're missing, they're not doing anything. Even the debuffs, like the Charm debuff that the Lamia does, and the Lock that Warrior of Light's LD do, yeah, they won't land if they're missing. However, Penelo has a Cleanse on her LD. So it will hit. So we have to make sure Penelo doesn't act. Here, we're just going to blow her up, but it's where Quistis will come into the battle later down the line. On a very similar tack, we also can't let the Lamia turn warp, which it does if you take 10 actions without it going. And that's for a very, very similar reason. Well, firstly, those debuffs on her are going to help out a lot with damage. I should say, if she turn warps, she cleanses as well. But the dangerous one is if she loses that total blindness or total darkness, and then does something like Strangle, dangerous HP attack. then I'm afraid that's probably going to be lights out for whoever gets hit. So under no circumstances can we let her turn warp. Which raises a couple of other interesting tensions in this fight. One, Quistis. Quistis is going to be doing a lot of delays, and there's not much we can do about that. We need to press Ray Whip at some point to keep up her LD buff for the Brave gains for Vaan. Crucial, and it's a 2-turn delay. But also Degenerator Whip, which we're going to be wanting to use to specifically delay Penelo, and because I didn't realise that you could use Kimahri's debuff on Warrior of Light, I used it on Kimahri as well. On Warrior of Light, rather. Bit of a waste, but you live and learn. Because that's an instant turn, it means that we're also eating into that 10-turn grace period, so I have to count pretty carefully. Now, added to that, Kimahri's Jump++, which he gets from his LD, it's his newish HP+. That's the one that recharges his EX, which gives us more access to that lovely total blindness debuff. Great stuff. That's also an instant turn, so we have to time out pretty carefully where we're going to be using those instant turn skills and just count a little bit ahead so that we don't catch ourselves short and get absolutely murdered by this Lamia. Now, as you might have noticed, this fight is pretty heavily backloaded if you bring Twins Friend. They are just so powerful for deleting large portions of this fight, and I don't love that about it. This team certainly wouldn't work without it. And I don't love the idea that you can bring in a character that completely negates the orb and takes you down quite so far. Although I've come around a bit more to friend units than I used to, having done some fun, interesting things in the past. So, I guess conflicted is how I feel. But this turn order is what we like to see. It's a hell of a lot of B turns, which are not dangerous to us so long as we've got that blind up, and C and A way, 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 way back. However, there's always a catch. Because the manikins tend to die, we are doing White Whirl, which has the splash. It is slowly killing them. Well, there Penelo goes. When they get resummoned in, those delays won't really apply to them anymore. And also the turn rate down from Quistis S1 is gone as well, which is a shame. Because that turn rate down is pretty significant in keeping their turns back. So I'm going to have to use my AoE delays at some point. It's just a matter of timing them and making sure that we're maximising that space to do the things I need to do, whilst not letting that Lamia warp, because, yeah, it's not a good thing. But I've enjoyed this fight quite a lot, actually. I think when I saw the instant death LDs, I was pretty sceptical, largely because of bad experiences with the Chaos Bahamut fight. I found that way more difficult than I ought to have. But my account also was... well, it wasn't new then, but it wasn't old. But there's enough interesting ways to get around these mechanics that, yeah, I don't mind too much. I think if Penelo hadn't had her... oh god, you can see that launch damage is nothing. Clearly countering Sid Rains. But I think if Penelo hadn't had Cleanse on her LD, or if it just not been Penelo, a different mannequin, then I'd like this fight a lot more. But at the same time, as Type Zoe pointed out, the mannequins are quite squishy. You can build significant Brave by shaving on them, bring a unit like Zidane and his Stellar Circle 5. So that kind of means that debuffs aren't all that necessary for dealing tons of damage. You could probably get away with more teams that just let the boss cleanse. Again, obviously not this one, but there are definitely teams that can get away with it. So I think all in all, I'd say this fight, yeah, a bit of a hit, frankly. Interested to see what comes next. I haven't done much research into Garnet's fight, except for the fact that I know it's got a very annoying orb, by the looks of it. It's +1 on Thunder, +1 on Water, so that dual enchant Garnet's got clearly tailored towards her. Bit like the Ash event, I suppose. Maybe you can build your own Garnet with, I don't know, Desh and Rydia Call. There's an option. Sounds quite tight to me, but I guess we'll see. I know it's 3 enemies who can blow you up quite easily, so just have to be careful. I'm looking forward to doing it either way, and oh my god. I forgot again at this exact point that if the boss dies, that's not the end of the fight. Yeah. I was actually pretty scared at this point because I was like, this Penelo needs to go down like now. So I started spamming these AAs to try and get a break on the Penelo just in case I needed it. Fortunately, it didn't matter. So, White Well. Boom. Of course that's going to kill her. And just to finish off that Warrior of Light. But yeah, Garnet fight, that'll be interesting. Do look forward to that. I'll be doing a video on that at some point. But until then, I think that's all my runs for this event. So thanks very much for watching. And what's going to be my thing for this video? Maybe post, if you got this far, down in the comments below what your favourite genre of music is. That'll do. But until then, have a great evening. Thanks very much for watching, and catch you around.